As investigations continue in the Polish blast, we now cross to our correspondent Trent Murray for the latest update from Warsaw in Poland. Good day to you, Trent. Let's talk about what's happening on the ground right now. I'm assuming at this point that people in Warsaw, in Poland, generally shook by that particular missile that hit the country. But what is being said on the ground?
Yeah, well, Flo, what we're really seeing here is probably just a very fast-moving story, and we're having to pay a lot of attention to the updates from the government. And the reason I say that is because throughout much of the night there had been rumours really running rife in this country that that rocket that landed in Poland may have come from Russia, and of course that would have represented a major escalation that could have cascaded into something much bigger. What we have seen in the past hour is effectively the president of this country, President Duda, just to try and lower the temperature a little bit, and that is because they are now saying that the investigations seem to indicate that the rocket was not a Russian rocket, it was instead a Ukrainian one. A Ukrainian missile that was trying to intercept a Russian rocket in Ukrainian territory, but appears to have effectively gone stray, if you will, and crossed into Poland, tragically killing 2 Polish nationals on their farm, about 6 kilometres from the Ukrainian border. So a lot of delicate diplomacy taking place, effectively just trying to step back, keep calm, if you will, and to try and make sure this doesn't cascade into something bigger. That certainly feels like the tone in the past hour or so that we're starting to hear from the Polish government after what has been a pretty dramatic 24 hours.
And I want to stay on this issue of tone, Trent. Interestingly, you mentioned President Duda, the president of Poland, and earlier Poland had come out saying that there would be a tough response if Russia is found to be behind this attack. And now that we know it isn't Russia, has his tone changed? And it does seem as though there will be any sort of, I want to say, apology to Russia for being so quick to jump the gun and blame Russia.
Look, in a word, no, and that is because the Poles are being very resolute that they do say that this is a tragic accident in their view, and that what they are saying is that the Ukrainian missile wouldn't have had to have been in the sky. Wasn't trying to defend itself against Russia. So, in fact, we're sort of hearing that message now being echoed from other parts of Europe as well. I was just listening to some statements by German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, and what he said, let me quote if I can, he says, it doesn't matter to Germany whose missile fell in Poland. In any case, it is Russia's fault because it's attacked Ukraine. The UK making similar statements, Rishi Sunak there, saying none of this would be happening if it wasn't for Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So whilst this was a Ukrainian missile that tragically did strike this farm, killing 2 Polish nationals, the European sentiment and here in Warsaw as well does seem to be, look, the Ukrainians were just trying to defend themselves. This is an accident. They can't be held to blame for this. So look, a lot more to see. I should say the Kremlin has responded as well. Dmitry Peskov, President Putin's spokesperson, he did effectively say, look, we witnessed another hysterical reaction from Europe with all of this, which was not based on any facts. We haven't got any response yet to how NATO feels about that statement, but plenty more to see on this. It is moving very quickly.
All right, let's paint a scenario. Let's just say that it did turn out, in fact, that it was Russia that had launched that missile into Poland, whether by mistake or on purpose. Is there a sense that indeed Poland would have been ready to fight Russia, and that in fact NATO would have then gotten involved? I mean, this is something that Zelensky has been wanting essentially all along. Well, from indications from what he has said himself, is there a sense that this would have been the sort of final straw? I mean, I'm talking the early ages of when this missile hit, the sort of language that we were getting from the government.
Yeah, well, Flo, we're getting into some quite delicate territory here, aren't we? Because what we're talking about is the world's biggest military alliance, NATO, effectively shaping up against Russia, and that really would escalate into a pretty terrifying situation. What we know under NATO rules is that an attack on one is considered an attack on all. So if this was a Russian missile, accident or not, Poland would probably reserve the right for some sort of response, or a response which was within reason, I suppose. I think that is why there has just been so much focus overnight on those diplomatic calls between Washington, Moscow, Berlin, everyone effectively piling in to get involved to try and de-escalate all of this, because the stakes are very, very high. The Ukrainians are also saying, though, that these Russian rockets aren't going to slow down anytime soon, in their view. They are going to keep coming, including into the west of Ukraine, where a lot of the electricity infrastructure is. And so the risk does continue to be run there, that there could be another rocket potentially cross over, or there's an escalation. I think that is why you will also see probably a renewed focus in coming days and weeks to maybe try and get the two sides to sit down and have some discussions, because clearly it can't go on like this. We really were brought back from the brink, I think it's fair to say, overnight from something potentially much worse. And so I think now the West will be saying, look, we need to have some more discussions to make sure this sort of thing doesn't happen again.
Trent, you look to be freezing out there. Let me let you go. Thanks very much for speaking to us and giving us what's on the ground there in Poland after that missile, of course, hit the country, which turns out wasn't a Russian missile, but in fact coming from Ukraine.